Hurt. How you doing, Hurt?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We were just talking real quickly about the fact that we're going to have our first meet and greet as a podcast, which is kind of a cool thing. We've definitely, I remember back in the day, had some of those networking parties, that you and Black GOP were at, and Carol. But we never actually ever had an event at a game before, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to do. And so we have a lot of hockey fans, and so I thought that would be a fun first way to do that. And yeah, we've got 9 people in a row, 3 people behind us, and a bunch of other people joining in, and should be a fun night. So if anybody is listening and wants to join us, again, November the 18th, if you can catch some hockey at 7:30 at night. We're gonna switch gears, switch into football talk. I'm excited because we're finally back to Victory Monday. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had Victory Monday. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had you on the show. It seemed like both of these teams kind of wanted to give the game away. You can't be too excited about it, but it's still a win is a win. We had not won in New England in a very long time, and we just don't really beat New England a lot in general. So, Hurt, break down some of your thoughts on this game.
It's always nice to win a game that you're supposed to win. And even though we were underdogs, I had us pegged for this victory all the way. Even with losing Montez and Chase Young, I had us pegged for this victory all the way. When we started off 10-0 and the Patriots came back on us, I'm like, this is becoming a trend. And at that point, I was driving back from Virginia Beach. I was listening to the game on the radio, so I couldn't see anything. But at that point, I'm like, this is now a fireable game. We lose this game after being up 10-0, everybody can go. That's just how I felt. Even with all of that, we were clearly the better team. Time of possession. The enemy's running the ball more. The defense is doing the best they can. Just what are you going to do when Brian Robinson gives him the ball on the other side of the 30? Not much you can really do. I felt like they played probably the best game they played besides the Philly game all season. So for us to get to 2017 and the defense to hold them for the fourth quarter, I thought they played with a lot of grit. I thought they played with a lot of heart. They played for their coaches. They played for their pride. They played for their positions. They played for the guy next to them. And I am satisfied with this win.
Yeah, let's go back to what you said at the beginning, because I don't want to bury the lead, because it is probably bigger news than the win is, losing two, of the franchise top players. But at the same time, I don't think we could have kept both. I'm not even sure we could have kept one with, we could have lost them for nothing. It kind of divided Commanders Nation, if you want to call it that, on their feelings of it. I mean, obviously these two were fan favorites. They were locker room favorites. They were good guys. It wasn't like they were bad players. Chase has gotten hurt a bunch. You didn't know about his health. You don't know, ideally for what he should have brought back a 2, but with the injuries in the last couple of years, it's hard to fetch that on an open market when teams know that it's a rental. Montez, I'm happy we got a 2 for that. I think that's a pretty decent return, because then the other team is forced to make the contract, for him. I was impressed at how quickly the Bears were able to get that done. I know that they obviously have a contract in place before you sign somebody like that, it's part of what you're doing. But he had said, or at least the rumor was, that he wasn't going to sign anything. He's going to take a few days or, some time to think about it. He just gotten traded, and that's all very reasonable. And then the next thing you hear 2 days later is he signed on the dotted line. So obviously there's a contract that he couldn't refuse. But what are your thoughts on losing both of those players, especially going into this game?
I knew we weren't going to be able to re-sign Montez Sweat. So when he went first, I was like, cool. You let Montez go. You sign Chase. You keep Tuhill, who's proven that he can be a good utility player for either one of them. Cool. But when we got a third offered for Chase, I was disappointed, and that's just what it was. Disappointed, but. And what I've been telling people is this move it was for the GM. It was for whoever the next GM is. we're going to be shopping for a GM this offseason. And part of the bargaining chip we say to the GM is, hey, we got $90 million under the cap. Every major player we need is already signed for another year at least, except for Cam Curl. And we have 5 picks in the first 100. That's very, very appealing to a GM. You have a quarterback in the future, $90 million, 5 draft picks. Someone can really come and put their fingerprint on this organization. And
I'm hoping 2 or 3 of those are offensive linemen. I don't know. We got to get a core group and we got to get them together. I don't know if you're going to get them through free agency. They're very expensive, in today's market. But I don't know. It's just, for me, is like he's been doing so phenomenal with getting sacked that many times. Imagine if we had the line, and some time, it's just.
The revamping of the offensive line is a victory for Ron Rivera. That offensive line now, he took 2 weeks and got it together, and they've given up 1 sack in 2 weeks. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I imagine one injury or just one. I don't know. I'm not sold yet. It was so bad through the first. Why couldn't they correct it earlier? How did they get to almost 40 sacks before they figured the shit out? It's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, they just don't giving him a chance. And you take out some of those sacks and a couple of those key plays and a couple of questionable officiating calls. We're in a different situation. We may have 6 or 7 wins at this point. And it's frustrating because they're right near what I at least had them at the beginning of the season. I had them through the first 10 being 5-5, right? If they were to win this next game, they will be exactly that.
Right.
And I had them going on a huge tear in the second half to make the playoffs, at the very end of the season, having a 5 or 6 game win streak. Right. And, so they sort of set themselves up at 500 now, and then they make the big run, final sprint kind of thing, which our coach has done before. He has had good Novembers and decent Decembers from time to time in the past. What are your thoughts, going forward? We got the Seattle game, and how do we sort of pivot some of this, momentum from what we've learned from this game?
We have proven that our weakness is stud wide receivers. Seattle has kind of a stud wide receiver. And I think that could pose some problems if Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio can find a way to take I forgot his name already. Sorry. If they can take him out of the game, I think this is a winnable game. It would have been more winnable with Chase. I think this is a game where you're really going to miss Chase and Montez Sweat. I think this is a game where you're really going to miss them.
I think it's Taylor Lockett. Is that right?
No.
The wide receiver? No.
He's going to be a problem too. But that's not who I'm talking about.
There's Jackson Smith. Is that? I'm just looking at the depth chart here.
Nah, the tall guy. I cannot remember his name.
Dujunnea, are you on? Because you probably know the answer.
Metcalf.
Thank you. Jesus Christ.
The voice of Dujunnea saving us. Yes.
That's what I'm thinking about. I think he's going to be a bigger problem because I don't want to see him matched up with Emmanuel Forbes at all. At all.
Yeah. I agree.
Who also played a really good game.
Yeah, I know. I think that the team played well. It's hard to know what you got against a New England team that's been really down on their luck. But again, Belichick usually just rips apart new quarterbacks. I'm happy that, our QB through the last 5 games has put up some of the best numbers, top 5 in numbers across the league in almost every statistical category. And, a lot of people had a lot of question marks on him coming into the season, and I think he's been definitely the bright spot for us. I didn't know if I was sold on him, and it's funny because I rooted for him in college, but I still didn't know if he was going to make the jump. North Carolina isn't necessarily known as the feeder school for the NFL.
Right.
So like maybe NBA, but not NFL, and so I didn't expect that. I was hoping he was there in the fifth round, so he's putting up good numbers, and I'm excited that we can sort of build around it. I'm wondering real quick, one last question before I know you have to go. I saw Baltimore just destroy the Seattle team last week, right? Is there anything that we gain knowledge wise from what they did? I know they're a very, very different team than us, but they are their most recent opponent, and they did obviously exploit some weaknesses in that defense.
Yeah.
What do you think we can gain from that sort of game plan going forward?
That if we run the ball, that we have a better chance against them. And that's something that Bieniemy does not want to do. Clearly, although he did it this game, good runs with AG, good runs with Brian Robinson. He did it a lot this game. I know that was hard for him, but we need to run the ball more if we're going to beat Seattle. We need to keep their stud wide receivers off the field. We need to control time of possession, and we need to cut down turnovers. That's the recipe for any victory in any NFL team. We have the pieces to do it, though.
Yeah, I hope we do. It's just funny because I feel like he doesn't get the running game or the screen games going in any game. Like it's like we get one or the other, and I'm like, oh, why can't we do both? Like, why can't
I don't
you
understand that screen game. Our screen game it has the potential to be great. He just doesn't like that. I don't understand it. I mean, that's one of those plays where even if the team knows it's coming, it still has a 50% chance to break from like 17, 18 yards.
Yeah, I think about that end of the game where they just threw that route, and I just couldn't understand why, and instead of just running a screen and sort of like finishing them off, like they ended up, punting it back to them, because we didn't, get a completion. But I just like, we just have to do everything the hard way. It's very frustrating as a fan of this team. Like nothing ever comes easy. And I know that wasn't supposed to ever be an easy game, but like we had opportunities to put them away and we didn't, and we never do. Like we never get a laugher. I want one game where we're like up 2 touchdowns at the end of the game and we can sort of like sigh relief. Like that and I get that doesn't happen a lot in the NFL, but it seems to happen for everybody else but us.
I think that's coming in 2 weeks. I predict that against the Giants.
You think so? Because it should have been that way the last time, and we fucking lost to them.
Yeah,
so like,
and the Giants had help. But they're going to have help again. They definitely upgrade at quarterback now with Daniel Jones being, out for the season. But I think when we play against, regardless of what happens with Seattle, especially if we lose to Seattle, I think we are going to have that ha-ha game against the Giants. I'm looking ahead, but I'm telling you now, I think we run it up on the Giants. I think that's the game where we come into our own and get ready to go strong in November. Ron's always been strong in November. He's not very strong in October or December, but he's always been strong in November. So we'll see what happens with Seattle, but our ha-ha game is coming.
I hope so. We're owed it as a franchise. Like I just feel like we're due, right? Due theory. I don't know, but anyway, with that, I don't know if you've been posting on your YouTube or anything with anything like that, but feel free to shout out whatever you'd like to shout out before we let you go.
Life versus lymphedema. The road trip goes up tomorrow. It is mixed. It is balanced. It is done. Life versus lymphedema. The road trip. Does the road trip go to tomorrow? No. Car shopping goes up tomorrow. The road trip goes up later in the week. I got 2 episodes that are mixed and ready to rock. I went on my first road trip. I bought a new car, which I'm going to chronicle me shopping for a car. And then I took it on its first road trip this weekend. And, I want to get back to regular content. And then, You know,
I'm excited. I put the link in chat for people who are watching on Twitch. Also, the link for all of her stuff is on the description on the Facebook one. It will be in the show notes as well. And then we have all of his information, obviously, on our website as well whenever we post a new episode on the show. But thank you so much. I'm excited for people to check out new content. I like your YouTube channel a lot, and I like what you're doing over there. And I'm excited. It's been a little bit since we've gotten an update, so I'm excited to see him.
yeah,
And
definitely tomorrow around noon it will be up.
sounds good. I appreciate you. Hopefully we'll have a good game against Seattle, and hopefully we'll have you back on next week.
I think it'll be good for next week. Yeah, either way.
Sounds good. All right, have a good one. Talk to you soon. All right, and that's Hurt, one of our very first producers, and the guy who gave us our break on our network. If people don't know, he's one of the founders of the True Radio Network, and it's been wonderful working with him all these years. And with that, we're going to bring in Dujunnea, and we're going to discuss a little bit more in depth about this Commanders team. It's been an interesting conversation so far. I do want to get some of your thoughts on some of the same questions I asked Hurt. But I'll first start off by saying, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's I was talking about in the hockey segment. I'm super happy to have our very first get together as a podcast. We've never done really before, like with the fans having a meet and greet. And it'll be for the hockey game. I did want to do one with the Commanders. Has not happened yet. It still might in the future. But I'm excited for anybody that is a hockey fan that's still listening right now. Definitely come check us out November 18th. And we have a whole section that took a whole row, and people can come meet us. Tickets are cheap right now for hockey. I highly recommend get them while they're cheap, because you never know how long that's going to last. It's the cheapest I've seen tickets in the last decade, so it gives an opportunity. But yeah, things have been going well. The hockey team's been up and down. The football team finally gets this victory, and it's a much needed one to sort of get us back on the right track. Hurt said he had it as a win all the way through. I follow my dad's footsteps, where I always bet against my team every week. That way you're at least happy if you win, or if you lose, at least you get the point and pick them, right? So I picked against us this week, but we did win. How did you have it going into this game? Did you think we were going to win this one? I know we were a 3-point underdog going into it.
Yeah, I had them winning. I figured they'd find a way to win, gut it out a little bit. And they would find a way to win, and they grinded it out and got themselves a win. Like you said, very important for this football team, and hopefully they can keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. We obviously went up 10-0 early, and then they came back on us. It's something that Hurt alluded to that's happened a lot this season. What were your thoughts at that point? Did you think momentum is slide, or did you think that we were going to grab it back, or, oh no, we're happening again? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I just knew that they just had to hold on. And if they didn't hold on and they somehow were to lose this game, I had a feeling that this was going to be a game that Jack was going to go home at that point, because we have seen this a lot. And really, it's some of the same stuff that we see every week. And I'm really starting to think a lot of it is just scheme. It's for whatever reason, they keep having these instances where guys are just getting wide open with nobody around. And again, the defense has lapses. It's like in the second half, they just have a tendency of giving up a lot of points. And, this time they were able to make some stops late to keep that, to prevent that momentum from, really taking over. But man, I tell you, it is gut wrenching at times to watch this team, especially when things are going well, and then it just seems to kind of turn for the worse. So, I thought they were going to give it up, but they managed to pull through.
Yeah, I'm happy they're able to pull through. It's weird to me. They're unable to put together two halves of football, it seems. Like they play a great first half and then it like nosedives. Or they're or they don't they come out just not prepared, and then they're like clawing their way back into the game. And it's just like, it's very frustrating that they can't just have some consistency to their game. Why do you think that is?
Uh, I really don't. For the defensive side, I believe a lot of it is the scheme and the calling of the defense. Sometimes I think he just gets a little cute, and some of it appears to be, for me, it appears that there's a lot of, I won't say guessing, but they're not reacting and they're thinking too much, or they're asking one or two players on the back end to do way more than that they should. Offensively, it's been really an offensive line issue and a Sam Howell issue. I have, called for them to make the change last week. They did that. They even made more changes this week, and those changes have seemed to stabilize this front, this front here. And now it's just a matter of the quarterback getting the ball out, not turning it over, and he's done a pretty decent job of that. So, you're going to expect the offense to sometimes not work, like you alluded to earlier. Some of it is just also the plays called it at the time that they're called. Really didn't have to take that deep shot on third down. It was a third and very manageable, and they could have taken a check down. They could have thrown a screen. There's several things they could have done to get that first down instead of chucking it down the field and taking a shot and having to punt. So, I think that's where a lot of it lies, and hopefully, especially defensively, they can get this stuff cleaned up. 17 points this week, not bad, but we all know on average what they've been giving up is in the 30s. So this trend has to continue, and hopefully, the offense can get back to scoring a little bit more points like they have been, 28-31. You should be able to win a ball game like that.
Yeah, it's just interesting because it's like, I don't know what to make of this team. Do you think the offensive line has fixed itself, or you think it's based on the teams that we're playing? I just don't. I'd love to believe Hurt and have that we've solved it, but then the questions are like, why did it take so long to solve this issue? Like it was a huge problem, and we lost a bunch of games because of it. Do you think it's actually solved, or do you think it's a bit about matchups?
We'll see. I think they are on the right track. Some of it with the offensive line is just based on combinations, and really, it just took them too long to make that change up front to come up with a different combo. They were trying to make it work and hoping these guys would gel a little bit, but it never, really came to be. So I think it's week to week, and this week it was able to work for them. And I think the guys they have will continue to improve and get another test, this weekend as they play Seattle.
Yeah. I want to give a quick little scoring update. The Jets did make a field goal, another 47-yarder. I think it was 47 yards. That makes it 17-6. They're clawing their way back into it. The Jets have had a rough game. A lot of turnovers early. A lot of mistakes. Good job there, where the guy had the ball in his hands and he just broke it up to force a fourth down and the ball back. But yeah, on a punt return. It's been a rough game for the Jets. So looking ahead to the Seattle game, it's been an interesting up and down year for them as well. Obviously the Ravens just kind of blew them out of the water. This game is going to be played in Seattle, which has always been a rough place for us to play. It's a loud stadium, and they tend to play much better at home. What do you think? Hurt mentioned about running the football, but in general, what do you see should be the game plan, and how do you execute against a team like Seattle?
Well, I think the biggest thing offensively is to run the football. They ran it 29 times this past week. And I expect that they have to continue that. Got to be able to keep them off the field. Scoring is important. As being on top of them is important for the simple fact that keep the crowd out of it. We know how tough that crowd can be as far as playing in that stadium. And defensively, it's what you expect. Take away their big guy, their big target guy. Really, Tyler Lockett hasn't really had that much of an effect. Take away DK and stop the run. That's basically what they have to do. It's not honestly, it's not that hard or complicated. But the execution has to be there, and that's what can be hard. Let's see, Seattle's like they're 17th in points, they're 21st in points allowed. They have +2 in the takeaway column. They're pretty much their run game is 23rd, so it's a doable thing. And their defense passing 20th, run defense is 21st. So there's opportunity to be able to take advantage of their weaknesses and be able to put some points on the board, enough points to win. Your defense should be able to make plays, and at the very least, slow down the passing game. That's where most of it's been biting the Commanders is the passing game and those explosive plays. So if they can limit that and they can come out and build off of what they've been doing the last 2 weeks, they have a good shot of winning this game.
Yeah, Hal just made so many great plays. He needs to eat it that one play though. He just still made that one mistake that kind of frustrated me because Carol and I were watching that game live, and it's like just throw it away, and we thought he was going to. He's like, he's making the right play, he's gonna throw it away, and then he last minute changes and throws into that coverage, and just like you got to come away with points going into that half that could have been really bad, because even 3 there gets you huge amount of momentum going into the second half. We're lucky we're playing a very bad New England team that really tried to give this game away and more often than we did, I felt, in a lot of times. So especially at the end of the game, but just very that you can't do that against a good team, that would have killed us. And, but I am very impressed. What are some of your thoughts? I mean, I know statistically the last 5 weeks he's been some of the tops in the league. What are your thoughts on his progression?
Well, I think he's the guy. I really do believe he's the guy. His ability to control the locker room. He's very smart in handling how he handles media. Like you said, there's going to be some growing pains. That throw in the end zone, there was nothing. There was literally nothing there, and I don't know what made him decide to throw that football, because there really wasn't anything there for him to even be able to gain anything out of, or allowing his receiver to try to make a play. He's over the past couple of weeks, he's getting the ball out quicker, so that's important, and it helps cut down on taking these unnecessary sacks and unnecessary hits. It's really helped out the offensive line. So, he is progressing well. And the good thing is not just him, but the offense itself has been progressing week to week. I know Curtis Samuel was out this week. It was nice to see Diami Brown, be able to contribute. And Doxson is starting to find his rhythm again, and is really, really making some big plays. And, you see why they brought over Byron Pringle. He was doing those types of things in Kansas City, and he really came up big this week. And it's just for the simple fact that he understands the offense, and he made himself an outlet for his quarterback, and that's important. So, I think he's progressing quite well, and this offense is progressing well also.
Yeah. Real quick question, changing sports topics for a second. Did you end up watching the Crown Jewel this weekend, or did you not get the pay-per-view?
I did not. I was out of town, went out of town for a little bit, hanging out, me and the wife. So, no, I didn't catch any of Crown Jewel at all. I'll have to watch that back here soon.
Yeah. I heard it was good. I know that we don't have Champ here. He's with family tonight. So I wanted to at least get I thought it was interesting. I saw the results of it. I was like, oh, that's kind of good. I was happy to hear that Logan Paul kind of saved Rey Mysterio from a bad fall. So that was kind
Yeah.
of one of the early kind of headlines, and so just thought that was kind of interesting. But we'll definitely try to get Champ on, next week and get his thoughts on these
Yeah.
things. And family always comes first, when it comes to this show. One last thing I wanted to talk to you about. You had a great show this past week. I hope that people go and check it out. Champ is actually on that show talking
Yeah.
wrestling, and it does a wonderful segment, and hopefully it'll be something that happens more often, because I love your guys' chemistry talking wrestling and stuff like that. But you also had an incredible guy on right afterwards. His name was Rio, and he is a super fan of the Commanders,
Yeah.
and I thought he was awesome. I was really became a big fan of his. I started following on his YouTube and watch his latest YouTube videos today. I've become a big fan of his, and I've actually been in conversation with him just today about having him join you and me on a segment, and maybe one of the upcoming weeks, and having the three of us chit chat about it. But let people know about your show this past week, and anything you got planned coming up for this upcoming week.
Yeah, that was fun. Having Rio on. He really knows his stuff, and he's kind of been, a friend, a fan of this, sports journey, and has been on some live remotes as well. So, it was really awesome to have him on. The wrestling coverage was awesome. Love that. It's nice to be able to talk that, and it's so much of it, man. It's so much of it. Wrestling's in a good spot right now, so that was fun as well. This week we're going to have on Top Fuel driver Buddy Hull, and we're going to talk to him about his season, the progressions and ups and downs of it, and what he has planned for the future here coming up for the 2024 season. And we'll have Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. He's the man of football game plan. He does CBS Sports also, and we're gonna have him on talking some NFL. It was an electrifying week in NFL play. Guys like Josh Dobbs making plays. Only have been there a couple of days. You see, a lot of teams coming back. It was a dogfight with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Just some fun stuff, really propelling us through this middle part of the season as we, start to get into close to the playoff time. So great week of football. And hopefully, we've got to confirm that, but we're going to have Commanders talk as we always do. And we're trying to get our family and colleague C Wall on with us this Wednesday. She's got to check her schedule, so that may change, but we're looking to have C Wall on as well to talk Commanders.
That would be awesome. Yeah, she is great. She had a show earlier tonight.
Yes.
And people could go check out the replay of that. She's having awesome coverage all season long. So definitely shout out to Seawall. So one thing that was really interesting, and just flipping through this, it seems that both teams we traded are stud defensive players that you and I haven't really had a chance to talk about. Didn't play this week, so we didn't get to see them on their new team. Right, we sent them the two of the bye teams, which I thought was like so it gives each one of them an extra week to kind of get acclimated. So it's kind of a nice gesture to them, and
Yeah.
real quickly before you go, I do want to get your quick thoughts on letting those two go, because I did get Hurt's thoughts on them. Since it was the biggest news story of the week, what were your thoughts coming out of that?
I thought it was a very good move. It's something that Washington hasn't done very well in years. They got ahead of it this time. They got a nice second round pick that's going to be very high. That third round pick is not. I don't think it's going to be much. I was a little disappointed in the third rounder. I do understand some of the parameters of why that is a third rounder. I had been hearing that it was a conditional, but from what I'm understanding, it is a solid third round pick. So it is what it is, but they got value, and that's something that this team has. I mean, we can go back to the Kirk Cousins deals, and really they could have either signed him for a lot less than what they were looking at a few years later, and wouldn't have to worry about him walking. And we've seen so many teams, so many players with this team get an opportunity to walk, and the team just gets a stupid compensatory pick. So once they're ahead, and it looks like management is looking to build, but I don't think I don't want to hear rebuild, and I don't think it will be. I just think it's more of a reload, reset type deal, because we've seen it throughout the league. Philly does a good job of just simply reloading. We've seen teams get turned around in 1 year and have success and make the playoffs. So I think Josh Harris knows exactly what he's doing in that group, and I thought it was the right move. A lot of first round picks on that defensive line, and you're not going to allocate money to guys that to a unit that's really not producing the way that you want it to. You know what I mean? So it was good moves. I think Chase is going to benefit, and so will Montez will benefit as well. The only problem I had is Chase getting traded to the 49ers, knowing he's got to come back here. and he's going to come back here late in the year. And you can bet Trent Williams is going to have him fired up for that game. And I believe this is the first game that Trent Williams will be back at FedEx playing, actually playing. He has never been back to FedEx yet and being in a game. So there's going to be a twofold thing there. But
people are getting mad at Chase for some of his comments, that he was saying that, that came out today. I'm not mad at him for saying that he's with a better franchise. I mean, what are you supposed to say when you're in a new situation? And It's not wrong. San Francisco, look over the last 5 years, they're in a much better situation, both in how they performed in the playoffs, but also going forward, where they are. So, I don't blame him for saying any of that stuff. And I don't think he said anything particularly that bad. And, but it's just interesting that people want to be like, we'll show him. I'm like, well, good luck. I hope that we do. But, I wouldn't bet too much on that. So.
No, I think that, he's not wrong. And there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done with this organization. And, by having the owners that they have, that's the first step. And then you just have to wait and see how everything comes together and whatnot. But he's at a bona fide team. I've been talking about it. Those guys up front, that front seven is going to eat. Chase and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, just to name those three. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for opponents.
I know a lot of Cowboys fans that are pissed at us for trading him to them because they think of them as their biggest competition, which obviously they had trouble with the Eagles, so they have to deal with some of their own issues. But I don't blame them. The 49ers now I think have got to be, because the NFC East isn't that impressive, or the NFC in general in comparison to the AFC this year. To me, no one's really jumped out as being like this dominant team. Eagles have looked pretty decent, but also gotten very lucky with calls in the last 3 weeks. And so, I mean, the 49ers are right up there. They've had some miscues over the last couple of weeks, but, this will shore up some of their defense, which could help, them greatly. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. But I appreciate the extended time that you've given us this week. And it's been fun to talk about a victory again. And hopefully we'll run the ball and have screen passes both in the same game against Seattle, and maybe see if that can be a recipe for success. But hope that you have a great show this week. And it's been fun talking to you like always.
Yes, sir. It has been fun, and yeah, hopefully they can put something together and keep the ball rolling here. These games they got coming up are winnable. There's a lot of winnable ones, so we'll see if they can continue the momentum that they were able to grasp and keep the ball rolling here.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone that wants to know more about Dujunnea, you can always check him out. He's now on Twitch. I'm his latest moderator over there, not Bland21. So I will do a shout out following command for that. One. And so you could just click the little heart over there. We're trying to obviously build towards affiliate on that. But you can find him on all different platforms. And the links are in the show notes, also in the Facebook description. It's also in chat here live on Twitch. But also, if you go to sportsothp.com, click podcast partners and click the Not Bland show. You can get that there. Also under Team Sports OTHP, if you scroll down to Dujunnea, you have all of his links for all of his great stuff that he does. So thank you so much, Dujunnea, for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
No problem, man. Enjoyed it. Have a good show.
Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to bring in Arun and Tim, and we're going to talk a little bit of general football, and then we'll get into some basketball action as well. Let me just change the logo real quick. But with that, I'll ask Tim, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Not too happy about that Wizards game, but
Yeah, I guess
we
I'll
know
post.
we know what they are at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah, great week of NFL.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the scoreboard up. I've been hiding it the entire show
Yeah,
because there's not a whole lot to be excited about there. You can see the score was 146 to 128 in the final.
More
And
bad defense.
yeah, a lot of bad defense. Speaking of bad defense, Houston Rockets just defeated Sacramento Kings 122 to 97 according to Scorebot. So that's not a lot of defense there, allowing 122 points, although we can't really speak. In regulation, we allowed 146 points, which is just kind of remarkable when you think about it. Impressively bad. But before we get into that, I do want to talk to Tim about the Ravens, because it is very much a topic that's been interesting in my mind. Rarely do the Ravens and the Commanders play the exact same team back-to-back weeks. And in this case, they do that, playing the Seattle Seahawks. What did you gain from watching that game that you think Washington could use to their advantage?
I would say this year, Seattle looks like they're a pretty good team. They're still leading that division, but they turned the ball over a little bit too much. Geno Smith has thrown a couple bad interceptions this year and had some fumbles. And I heard some talk that maybe if he doesn't stop turning it over, they might go to Drew Lock eventually, because the defense maybe statistically isn't great after this week, but it's still solid and they can run the ball. And they do have good receivers, but yeah, I would say turnovers are a problem for their offense because they're not extremely explosive.
Yeah, I'll bring in Arun now. Well, Arun, what are some of your thoughts after we've defeated New England, and what can we do to sort of roll with some of this momentum and somehow try to copy a little bit about what the Ravens did against Seattle, because Seattle's always been a tough place for us to play.
Yeah, I don't think Seattle playing on the East, going from East to playing the East Coast, I think maybe that had some effect, but the Ravens defense just shut down Seattle, and Geno Smith looked kind of pedestrian. So if Washington's defense is up to the challenge, then they can play well. But the Patriots, I don't know what they were doing. They only gave Ramondre Stevenson the ball 9 times. And he had like 90 yards. I don't know why I don't know why they weren't giving him the ball more, but maybe Washington crowded the box or they took something away. Mac Jones was pretty bad, and give credit to Washington taking a team on the schedule, but the Patriots, maybe they're trying to lose games because I heard that they didn't even play their best corners to start off the game. So we'll see how it goes going forward for they can build momentum because Howell looks solid at times. He did throw a bad interception as Dujunnea just mentioned, but it's good that he kind of played better to close out the game.
Yeah. Sticking with talking about the Commanders real quickly, because I've gotten Dujunnea and Hurt's thoughts on this, but I'll get yours too, Arun. What are your thoughts on our offensive line? Do you think that we've been able to fix some things, or do you think it's been a bit of like luckier matchups?
I think they're doing better than they were to start the season. They definitely weren't giving up like 6 or 7 sacks. And maybe Howell's getting a little bit better accustomed to the play design, but I don't really know if it was just New England was just bad or like it's hard to say because like against the Eagles, like how like he was getting sacked. There's some teams that just like they give up like 7 or 8 sacks in a game, and that's just unacceptable. So let's see how they do in Seattle, where like the 12th man is, and that's a big test to see if the offensive line is really improved, or if it's just 1 week where they ignored the issues against a really bad New England team.
Yeah, I hope that they fix it because it's been a huge weakness for us throughout this season. In games where we allow those crazy number of sacks, we have a pretty terrible record, but on the games where we protect better, we seem to play a lot better, which is, I mean, obviously no surprise. But it seems to definitely be a significant factor in wins and losses. Tim, any other thoughts on the Commanders before we switch gears?
No, I'll just comment on the trades real quick. I think I think the consensus is they're pretty smart because finally you get picks guaranteed instead of waiting for compensation picks, and also you get the picks a year early. So I can understand why they did it. I think it's a little disappointing that you would give up on players that are drafted that highly, but at the same time, you're not going to pay them, and they're a little disappointing for where they were picked. So I think they'll probably do well on their new teams, but yeah, it was a better move, and I think Daniel Snyder probably wouldn't have allowed that to happen. So
Yeah, Arun, what are your thoughts on the moves?
It didn't feel like I was surprised they traded both of them, but I guess if they're going to get compensation for both, and they weren't going to end up keeping even, I don't think they were going to keep Chase Young and Sweat. I think they got a 2nd-round pick. I think Young, him taking him 2nd overall, it's ultimately, I guess at the time it was like a good pick, but it's turned out not to be like a really good pick at all. Like considering that they could have traded down and taken somebody else, but it is what it is, and you kind of just have to let it go. And I don't think he really wanted to be here just based on the comments he made. And yeah, San Francisco's a better team, but I don't like Sweat has definitely gone around it a lot better. And Chase Young's dad apparently called in the radio and he was making fun of the Commanders. So I don't really think he was just chasing sacks and not really containing the pocket. And maybe a better defensive coordinator can get more out of him. And there's, I don't know, like that's definitely a position that could be addressed, and that's maybe why Chase Young struggled. But I don't think either way he wasn't getting it done here, and it's better to get compensation rather than just overpay him based on potential than results.
Yeah, because there's still a question mark about injury, and I agree with you. I've been struggling with his ability to contain. I appreciate, his ability to get sacks and get up the field, but I mean, we're in a mobile quarterback generation, right? It's in a very different time, where it's not just people just sitting back and picking you apart. So he's got to be able to contain people. It's part of the job now, and I just don't know if he's consistently shown that he's able to do that. I do want to just take a quick look at the live leaderboard, see if I can get this up there correctly. So you can see right up there, I am still number one, tied with Tommy Dykes, my father-in-law, and Champ. And then Hurt is 1 game back, tied, and then Dujunnea is 2 games back, and also so is Sith, and then Arun, you are 4 games back. So it's all very close at the top, but it's been a fun competition in our fantasy pick'em league. Whoa, that is a circus catch. Sorry.
Keenan Allen, that was amazing
was...
catch, and he's talking trash to the Jets fans, which I love. So
yeah. Oh, and then right afterwards they allow for a sack, which is hilarious. So it's 17-6 in this game, but yeah, basically one-handed pulls it in, circus catch, and he gets on. Yep, is back. And he spins around and catches it. Wow, that level of concentration is pretty impressive. And to hold on to it through going out of bounds. It's 2nd and 13 now. There's about just under 11 minutes left in this 4th quarter. Really rough first half for the Jets, but the Jets are kind of hanging in there. Interesting. He's one of 2 Chargers with 10,000 receiving yards. So we'll see here. It's an out route, but it gets out of bounds. The clock still goes though, because oh wait, the clock does stop, but it starts with the play clock again. It's 3rd and 13. All right. I'll ask each one of you guys. Tim, any other thoughts you want to share about the Ravens win this week?
Well, it was another great win. I think, like Arun said, having a West Coast team come to the East Coast at 1:00 after daylight savings is it's a big advantage. I think the Ravens are clearly better, but I loved how they ran the ball in the second half, and they have probably a new running back, and his dad, Anthony Mitchell, played on the first Ravens Super Bowl team, and they're both undrafted players. So it's great to see that father and son, and kind of a weird connection of not being drafted. They probably should have been, clearly, but that was cool to see.
Yeah. I'm not catching up Pokemon. Arun, do you have any other thoughts on the Ravens game?
No, not really. It's just I don't think the Ravens are definitely that better, but I don't think I don't think Seattle's that bad either. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they are, though. Hopefully they carries over, but I don't think they were going to continue leading the division, the NFC West, over the 49ers. I don't think they're this bad either. Like, the Cardinals played the Ravens tougher than the Seahawks.
Yeah. What are your thoughts going into this Commanders game versus Seattle? We talked about not being able to have good running game and screen game in the same game. Do you think that they finally do that, or do you think Seattle uses this as a get right game, as most teams do against us?
I don't think Seattle's defense, they didn't look that impressive against even the previous, their defense can be thrown upon. I'm a little bit worried about Kenneth Walker, I guess, having a big game, and as far as them being in the backfield, but maybe since Ramondre Stevenson had a big game, but Geno Smith, I think the key is just keying in on him and making sure Tyler Lockett and they don't get going. They also have a couple other DK Metcalf, and I forget what the rookie's name. He's good, and so just making sure the Seattle's passing game doesn't get into full gear, because Geno Smith kind of regressed to the mean this week. We'll see what happens next week, though.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that we've talked NFL for long enough. We're going to switch gears and talk about the NBA.